graduate and master's program are taught in either evening, weekend or distance learning in general management, human resource, marketing, ICT, finance, public administration, procurement, education, among others. Professional courses include CILT, CIM, CPA, and PMP and CIPS. Application deadline is 12th December 2020. Visit our website www.admissions.umi.ac.ug for online application or contact us on 0312 721000. UMI, empowering you to excel.
Load and ride this Christmas with AfriCell. Yes! AfriCell is giving out border borders this Christmas season. Woohoo! Load AfriCell airtime worth 5,000 and above to be one of the lucky winners of the border borders. Every time you load 5,000 airtime, you get one entry, and the more you load, the more entries you have in the draw. Win your border border this season with AfriCell. Watch the live draw every Wednesday on the AfriCell Facebook page at 8 p.m. The wait is over. Let's load and ride with AfriCell. Please note that the only authorized number which we'll be calling winners is 0790-790-100. Terms and conditions apply. AfriCell, connecting communities.
Cash, chupa ku chupa, we cash, nusu ku nusu. Bring your empties to go more cash. For the empty they will give you cash. Empty club Nenairo. Igolaga neka so light. Drink finish, collect your cash now. Chupa, nusu ku nusu.
On cash for every bottle you return in a good condition. Get 500 shillings for every Igolaga or Ego Extra empty. And get 600 shillings for club, now special, and Ego Duck empties. You can get up to 22,000 shillings for a crate. Take your empties to the nearest Now Breweries Depot or collection point and get cashed. Terms and conditions apply. Enjoy responsibly.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a new member of the White Star family, Magic Bar Soap. Now, will all the dirt, the stains, and the bad smells stand aside, please? The leader is here to help with your washing and cleaning needs. It's magical. Cleans all dirt wherever it's hidden in your clothes and cleans it out. Leaves your clothes with a sweet smell of magic. Magic Bar Soap lasts longer, giving you value for money. Magic Bar Soap, magical product from the White Star family.
Uganda twena n'abanyamukago okusheka hamwe twarya hamwe twanywa hamwe hurra rukunde jo nzubendeza nebane ningika tushemererwe tushabuze tukundane taste the feeling Coca-Cola z'amashimirwa g'ibiro bikuru n'ecupa ya Coca-Cola omu Christmas eji nitubendeza nohire nungi kurwo mu Coca-Cola.
KFM time check. It's 7 p.m. Now it's time for KFM Hot Seat. Catch the fire tonight on KFM's Hot Seat. Every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat. The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat. Every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. KFM's Hot Seat. Only on 933 KFM.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hot Seat this Friday, the 4th of December 2020, and within the studio is a panel of the most experienced journalists and panelists to discuss the major events of the week. On my left-hand side, I have Dismas Nkunda from Civil Society. Right across me on the table, I have Onapito, Ekomoloit, the Director of Corporate Affairs at Nel Breweries, the producers of a beer you should never drink because they stopped sponsoring this show. But he also is a representative of President Yoweri Museveni, State House, the first son, the first lady on this show. Next to him, representing the Kabaka of Buganda and the Kingdom of Mengo, is a second-year student of law at UCU, Uganda Uganda Christian University in Mukono, and that is Charles Bukenya. Next to him is from the Democratic Republic of Congo, representing Tshisekedi and Kabila, Emmanuel Kwezi Tabaro. Gentlemen, welcome to this all-male chauvinistic show.
Thank you,
Andrew. I think I need to start wearing a bulletproof vest. They have given me a very delicate role.
I think your vest can be shot through.
Okay, as usual, this show discusses the major events of the week, and we have one major event of the week. The major events of the week surround one thing: election violence. Let me begin with you, Dismas. It is surprising me that since this election began, I have not read in the newspaper headlines, I have not watched on television headlines what the different candidates are promising to do in this election. All I see is shooting, battles between police, the army, LDUs, and the different opposition candidates.
Andrew, when have issues ever been the necessary ingredient that makes the decision of the politics of this country? No. It's the levels of because it's already said, you know who the people in the lead are. So issues are nothing to, even if you listen to my candidate is Katumba, and he gives you the best issues to listen to.
Your candidate is who?
It's Katumba. Wow. Katumba. Yes. And even if he gave you the best litany of things that he's going to do to this country, it doesn't add up, it doesn't change. But if you have someone like NUP and NRM, they find themselves at the top of the contestation. So what you get is violence, because whoever doesn't win, loses it and doesn't up their game, then they'll lose the election. It's not about the thing.
Onapito was still a journalist in 1996 when we covered that election. There are many issues we covered, especially when Smogere promised universal primary education, and Museveni offered 3 kids per family. In 2001, there were issues of the transition. Museveni saying this is going to be the last term. In 2006, I remember there was a serious discussion on universal secondary education, on Bona Bagagawale. There was 2011 when the president, I think, can't remember what he promised. But even in the last election, there was wide coverage of Message's promises on policy. There was coverage of the violence, but there was coverage of the promises that the different candidates were making. But in this election, I haven't read even what their manifestos are saying, because every day I tune on TV, I listen to radio in my car, or I read the newspapers. I see every single thing about the violence, nothing about the issues these candidates are raising at the rallies.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely worrying, and there are two factors driving it. One, the violence is reaching the climax, but it has been running for nearly 3 years, if you remember.
Yes. Since Arua?
Yes, since Arua, even before Arua, since generally the Chadondo phenomenon of Bobby Wine coming to election and his direct challenge to President Museveni, and then the banning of his music, all that has been surrounded by violence, and it's just been building up, and we hope the climax has been reached and won't be post-January 14th. But then the other reason why issues are disappearing is also speaks to the loss of faith in the political class by the population. I think they don't believe, not just about the presidents, even at parliamentary level. I mean, many people think those seeking political office really can posture, can promise, but they will never deliver. So I think the candidates themselves do not have confidence in issues as a main vote-catching strategy. Instead, it's about the other individual.
You're saying the population have become cynical?
Yeah, absolutely cynical. I don't think they believe. Of course, they have reason also to be, because there have been so many promises. Some of them have been fulfilled, but I think the majority never get fulfilled.
Kwezi Tabaro, is there any meaning you get out of this kind of thing? I haven't covered an election like this where there is not the candidates' issues are receiving maybe 2% coverage, because unless they're on page 25. Normally when you skim through newspapers, or when I watch TV, I watch NBS and then TV almost on the 9 p.m. news. I have not seen the issues. I'm only seeing the violence. And what does that portend for this election?
Of course, it's very frustrating, but I also think we are seeing an interesting convergence, both in the way media covers elections. I think we saw maybe 20% of the kind of media coverage we have today in 2016 with social media and almost 24 hours live TV. In the previous elections, it was really what the candidates said on the rallies, appearing in the papers the next day. Now you can receive in real time what the candidate is saying at a particular rally, and whatever sentiments are being aired on a rally somewhere can in real time be transmitted to a different group in a different place. And I think candidates are maximizing that, especially NUP, with the way that they are doing their rallies. So the bombardment of all these images and all this information, I think, makes any media consumer feel like it's violence all over the place. Of course, the biggest loser in all this is the NRM and President Museveni, because I think he has had a fairly good term in terms of the things that he had promised to do. If you look at public infrastructure and all that, even in the period leading up to the election, many countries were going through, a pandemic, and Uganda was singled out for being one of those countries that is at the forefront, in terms of having an effective response. But all that and the issues have been washed away by the senseless violence. What could be at the heart of this violence, I think, is the fact that Uganda has changed. And not many actors are willing to believe or accept the fact that Uganda has changed. You can see this in the rhetoric, especially by the old guard. I saw a press conference the other day by General Eli Tumwine. You want to compare and contrast the statements of this gentleman or honorable minister with the young man who came into power in 1996, and you're short of words. So I think there's a clear gap that has been growing, and it's become so significant in this election. The detachment in terms of issues and concerns, and a sense of entitlement and betrayal on one side or the other. I think that largely could explain the kind of election we're having.
Just Bukenya, when you watch TV or the news, do you know what the candidates are promising?
Certainly not.
For me, normally I watch that they have beaten this one, they have stopped the other one, they have done this. It's maybe that...
Isn't that a message?
It's catchy, but that is catchy. If they filmed Katumba saying his policy agenda for the next 5 years is this in 2 minutes, and in the other clip they said Katumba was beaten for 1.5 minutes, there's more action in 1.5 minutes of him being beaten than in him making a statement.
Perhaps the question is, why is practically every candidate of the opposition being beaten? Yes,
not everyone.
For me, I think consistently over time, many things with the proliferation of social media, many people have lost their, long-term span. So their concentration span. If you, for example, wrote a brief in the newspapers and published, for example, let me say a 4-page detailed agenda that you want to pass across to the public, I'm not so sure the majority of Ugandans would actually conceive it. I'm not so sure. So there's been consistent drailing of the public or the people from really intellectually engaging deeply. The second reason is that there's been consistent loss of trust in government. And how do I connect it to the fact that today issues are not being discussed? Initially, when the pandemic had hit this country, the public, you would see a strong sense of trust in this government. After a certain period of time, when COVID seemed to the public that it was being politicized, people lost that trust. And what usually the opposition has been doing is to read into what government does. So when these people lost trust in the government also felt that, or perhaps the NRM government felt that there was nothing more to articulate, because even if they articulated issues, still the public would not be able to hear them. And what was their next resort? It would be violence, and of which the opposition would also respond in the same currency.
I want to come to you, Dismas. You know the problems I confront is...
But Andrew, let me ask you a question. You're a journalist, I'm a journalist. You tell me, do you know what is the motto for NUP in the current elections?
Actually, NUP produced a manifesto which I've not yet read.
Do you know the one of NRM? of
Yes,
all
I
the
think,
candidates. Do you
securing
have
your future.
You have securing your future for new NUP. Do you know for
A new Uganda.
New Uganda? So there are certain things. I mean, what we are seeing is not the question of what the details in the manifesto. You haven't read the manifesto. That's why you get the story. If you're a journalist.
But you see what I was saying, Dismas, is in the last election, which I followed as keenly as this one, I really did write a series of articles on the promises of Museveni to give host to everybody, on the promises of Besigye to increase the agricultural budget by 10%, to increase teacher salaries. At the beginning of this campaign, Bobi Wine promised to increase soldier and police salaries, and it really captured news, and I tweeted about it. But there has been a muffling of these promises. Normally, these promises form issues of debate. I remember in the last election, we on this table really discussed the issue of horse. We discussed the issue of basic agricultural plans. There was something, even though you could read on the front page of a newspaper, something that has been promised. First, remember the president who promised to supply sanitary pads?
Sanitary pads.
Yes, they became an issue.
The president.
It was the president.
It was the president. So, and it became a controversial issue that you could debate whether this policy is reasonable or not reasonable. And in this case, I don't.
But Andrew, maybe a lot has happened since 2016, because let's first and foremost step out of Uganda and look at what happened between 2016 and today. It was before Trump and the politics that he came with. But also, we've just had, you look at the three most recent elections anywhere, the one in Tanzania, the kind of violence that was unleashed on the opposition. The opposition leader, in fact, had to be escorted by embassies into exile. In Malawi, High Court judges had to be brought in Mambas to decide the presidential petition. In the USA, the other day, what were the issues in the election between Trump and Biden? It was really everyone rallying their base, and whoever could get their base angrier, at the end of the day, won the election. So I think there is. Of course, you can't rule out.
In the USA, there was no coverage of the fact that Trump's police was beating up the supporters and harassing them on the road.
But I think for me, there is one issue which maybe is not directly being articulated, but is the real issue of the election. The unfinished debate about the removal of age limits, I think, which was itself characterized by violence, is what is driving this election.
But why is it not being raised?
I'm also surprised. Actually,
let's take another break. We come. We deal with that.
I'm shocked. People like no, because I'm not saying this. These people denied you a chance.
But you know, it's a can for best display. You could come back sometime when it's 75 or more.
Because it's a silent.
No.
With Africell.
Win yourself a Boda this festive season with Africell. Load and ride. Every time you load 5,000 shillings airtime, you get one entry. And the more you load, the more entries you get. Watch the live draw every Wednesday at 8 p.m. on the Africell Facebook page. The only authorized number to call the winners is 0790 790 100. Terms and conditions apply. Africell, connecting communities. Africell is regulated by Ghana Communications Commission.
On 5th December, the International Volunteer Organizations in Uganda, TIVO, will commemorate the International Volunteers Day with the purpose of recognizing the contributions of volunteers to peace and development. The theme for this year is Together We Can through volunteering. The International Volunteer Organization Uganda, which includes JICA Uganda, United Nations Volunteers, Peace Corps Uganda, KOICA, VSO, Restless Development, Building Tomorrow, and the Red Cross Society, will hold a Zoom dialogue on December 5th, 2020 at 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. For more details, get the Zoom link on our different media platforms. This message is brought to you by the International Volunteer Organization Uganda.
Enjoy a premium flavor of Uganda Waraji and Bond 7 in the 200 ml pack for only 4,000 shillings at a store near you. Alcohol is not for sale to persons under the age of 18. Please drink responsibly.
ShopRite is your home of low prices this festive season. We buy more so you spend less, which means there's no better place to shop for festive deals. Like a 1-liter pack of Pick and Peel fruit juice assorted for only 6,900 shillings each, and a 2-kilogram pack of SWT1 long grain basmati rice for just 9,200 shillings. Take home more this festive season. Valid till 30th December only at ShopRite. Lower prices you can trust always.
Taxpayers Appreciation Season is here. We recognize, celebrate, and award Uganda's top taxpayers. Be part of the first online Bombaya Business Summits and stand the chance to win smartphones, gift sets, hampers, and lots more. Visit our social media pages to find out more.
Appreciate you for paying your taxes. We're proud to be Ugandan. We celebrate you. Oh, we celebrate taxpayers of Uganda. We appreciate you. We appreciate you. Uganda together.
Uganda Revenue Authority. Developing Uganda together.
Best Group Uganda Limited, on instructions of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees UNHCR, have organized to sell used vehicles and other items through sealed bid auction on December 7th, 2020. Items to be auctioned include Toyota Land Cruiser hardtops, Toyota Land Cruiser ambulances, Toyota Prado TX, Toyota Land Cruiser pickups, motorbikes, generators, IT equipment, among others. Viewing the items and obtaining bid forms start on Monday 30th November 2020 to December 15th 2020 at plot M265 Peacock Warehouse in Tinda Industrial Area. For more information, please call Best Group Uganda Limited on 0779 337914 or 0700 628731. All visitors are reminded to come with a face mask.
933
KFM's Hot Seat. Hot Seat. Hear the real story behind the story. Coming right at you. Only on 933 KFM.
Welcome back to this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring this panel of the most experienced journalists and pundits to discuss the major events of the week. Dismas, Nkunda, Onapito, Ekomoloit, Bukenya, and Kwezi, Tabaro. So we were coming to this issue. I wonder, if you look at President Yoweri Museveni in this election, I think he comes with a strong he is a strong policy president. So if the election was based on issues, I think he would have a competitive advantage. But I feel like the opposition have drawn him into a sphere where they have a competitive advantage, where they have said, we are the underdogs, we are going to force this election to be on the fact that you are a bully. So the issue will be about bullying, not about the things you have achieved and the things you are promising.
But you see, Andrew,
and in that sense, he has, in a way, walked into their trap.
No, not necessarily that, Andrew. I think one of the things that we are also ignoring in the process of this election is even the time that they have to articulate the things that they have to say. It's a COVID time. They have limited time. You can't sit there and have 4 hours of campaigning. You have to do a short period of time and you go to another district, because I can see that some people are covering almost 3 districts in one day. And so in a way, the complication of COVID and the regulations that are put in place by the Electoral Commission for social distancing, it doesn't give the people. You're addressing youth. Museveni has chosen now to be calling the youth group to address them, to address a few NRM people. And these are NRM people, they're already converted. They already know the issues. It's not that he's addressing an entire public that has a mix, right? It's chosen people. Then after that, he goes to the youth. What is he going to tell the youth? He's going to tell them, now these days, I saw was it in Tororo? He did campaign, he did go there, greeted the group of youth. After that, someone who's in charge of, some lady, she's in charge, I think, of what, Ntandikwa or something. She was the one who continued speaking to the youth because the president had run to another place. So there are complications that cannot allow candidates to sit and say, these are the plans, these are my manifesto, contains the following things, and has time enough to be able to articulate them.
You agree with that, Onapito?
Yes, but I think for me, I will stick more to the fact that the issues are there, but the violence has been so pronounced. Remember, the tone of violence was set right on nomination day. And there has been no easing. the way some candidates were arrived for nomination, how some left the nomination bench. So the top of mind issue for anyone is violence. And I think the media, you can blame it, but they are really covering the story.
But Onapito, my issue is who is responsible for this? Because my issue, which I was asking Dismas, is that you see, if coverage moves towards violence, if you cover this election on the basis of issues, I think that President Museveni would have a competitive advantage there. True. He seems to be a stronger policy president. But if it moved on the matter of emotions, and violence is an emotional issue, the opposition then get a competitive advantage, or at least they win public sympathy. If I was in the opposition, I would really need Museveni to keep beating me so that I can win public sympathy, especially if you're Bobby Wine. You're not going to compete with Museveni on fiscal policy when you cannot even describe what fiscal policy is.
Yes, and so they are simply selling red meat. They are selling what they know easily. First of all, they are unknown quantities, so you must introduce yourself in a dramatic way, in an appealing way. That's why I even think they're trying to blame them for defying COVID regulations is not appreciating the value of. Suppose you went to address 200 people in a district where nobody knows you,
and you're wearing a mask.
And they can't even recognize you. You must try to drive by. You must create excitement. So they are at a situation whereby they are advertising themselves. The president is already known, so his approach of articulating his manifesto in a quiet, calm manner is also a logical approach. So each is doing the right thing for their strategy.
But in this age of social media, with 20 million internet accounts according to UCC, with internet traffic at around 19.6 million in the month of August, one has to ask yourselves, can't candidates really avoid these rallies and maximize on media access through social media?
No, Andrew, I mean, you cannot rule out the for momentum in an election. And momentum is not only psychological, but it's also emotional and physical. So candidates will certainly identify more with their voters when they go there, they look at them, and then they go back to their homes. So there is the image they leave when they've seen their candidate is so much propelling to them on that day of voting. So the physical and emotional attachment, I think, are so crucial in an election.
Let me ask you this. If you look at the US election, the last US election, Trump refused and always held rallies in open stadia and all that. And Biden refused to address these rallies. Yes. And really kept away from rallies. But each side was able to really mobilize more than ever in American history. Biden got slightly over 80 million votes. Trump got 74 million votes. At his height in 2008, Obama got 69 million votes. No one had ever gotten them. In 2012, he got 65. But now, Trump lost with 74 million votes. In other words, 5 million votes more than Obama got at his height. But the opposition, who never had rallies, that is Biden, got 80 million people out that vote for them. That has never happened. Isn't it possible, therefore, that the opposition can increase excitement, can increase their reach, using social media, which, from the numbers we are getting, and from, given their base is largely the semi-educated urbanized person, or semi-urbanized person, they could concentrate there without also putting this country at the risk of the pandemic?
No, you're talking about a different context, Andrew. Both in terms of the relative strength of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in the US and the kinds of resources they have at their disposal, but also that the American state in that election plays some sort of arbiter role. In Uganda, it's different. You have on one end, like you've identified him, the bully, who both controls UCC, meaning if you're doing well on social media, you could wake up one day and shut down the internet. Or, like in the case of Patrick Amuriat, you could go to a radio and you're switched off, so you're speaking, selling your ideas. Nothing. After the show ends, they tell you
you're selling to yourself.
So you don't have goodwill even from your own opponent. So if the NRM or President Museveni was really interested in these SOPs, not selfishly because they know their candidate cannot be exposed to the virus or whatever weaknesses he has, they would allow these other alternative channels and then beat them on the streets and tell them, you know what, You can go on the radio, on the airwaves, and on the internet and do all those things. But based off previous experience, and the opposition knows this, the NRM is not willing to give them an inch. If and it's very likely in the elections, if the opposition builds momentum and continues attracting the large numbers they're attracting on social media, I'm sure days to the elections, the internet will be shut down.
So, but I think that the NRM has really gone haywire. Yes, it has always been unfair to the opposition. Yes, it has never given sufficient space for the opposition to operate. But I get the sense that this time, even when you begin attacking, previously they would focus on Besigye. All the other candidates would not be beaten. But now I've seen Amuriat gets beaten. Even Katumba.
Katumba was slapped and nearly cried.
Yes, but they have even reached the extent of stopping Bobby Wine from even finding a hotel room where to sleep, because the level of intolerance has reached such degrees that defy understanding.
Remember we discussed this, I think, on the same time. We said the reason is simply, it's not that they don't know that Museveni is going to win. They know. But the thing is, what Bobby Wine is presenting is something that can come up in the future. It's not, I don't know, Bobby Wine might be thinking that he is. But so the violence, it happens in bits and it doesn't happen every election year to the same levels. No. There are some years where particular candidates come up and they become, now tell me, have they beaten General Muntu? No. Have they beaten Nkunda? No.
He was a little bit.
No, it's wrong. When he gets there with the soldiers, the general, he tells you, policeman, you can't do anything to me. And he pushes them and walks. But they are, so, not, to say that not all candidates have been beaten, the one which they beat and they felt bad was Katumba. And I haven't seen that lady, the lady, what is her name?
Matthias.
No, the lady in the
Kalembe. Nancy.
I haven't even seen her appearing anywhere. Anyhow, so the point is, it's.
Have they beaten Kableta yet? Joseph Kableta?
No.
Blocked his right.
They already beat him sometime.
He was beaten before he went for the presidential election. Our fellow journalist. So it's.
Okay, we have to take another break. I'll be right back.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat.
The Saturday Monitor, in partnership with Narrow, NTV, Stanbic Bank and NSSF, brings you the 21st Seeds of Gold Virtual Farm Clinic in Namulonge, focusing on maize and dairy, to be held at the National Livestock Resources Research Institute, Naledi, and National Crops Resources Research Institute, NACRI, at Nachesasa Station. Tune in to NTV on Saturday, December 12th, 2020 from 4 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Catch the show live and learn new ways on how to get bumper harvest in the new normal of COVID-19. Seeds of Gold, smarter farming for bumper harvests.
Catch cash, chupa ku chupa. We catch cash, nusu ku nusu. Bring your empties to go Mokashi. For the empty we give you cash. Empty your club Nenaido. Igolaga neka so light. Drink finish, collect your cash. Now chupa ku chupa, nusu ku nusu.
Earn cash for every bottle you return in a good condition. Get 500 shillings for every Igolaga or Ego Extra Empty. And get 600 shillings for Club, now special, and Ego Duck Empties. You can get up to 22,000 shillings for a crate. Take your empties to the nearest Now Breweries Depot or collection point and get cash. Terms and conditions apply. Enjoy responsibly.
Shell V-Power with Dynaflex technology improves engine efficiency and is equipped with dirt-bursting molecules.
Or simply put, fueling with Shell V-Power enables you to enjoy unbeatable protection from performance-robbing deposits while enabling you to enjoy the ultimate drive and performance. So, power the adrenaline.
Fuel the feeling with Shell V-Power.
It's the time of the year when we come together. Family and friends all around each other. We can feel the smiles, the love, the joy all around. It's Christmas. It's a Merry Christmas. All around Uganda. Spread the love, spread the cheer, spread the fun. Taste the feeling. Coca-Cola Christmas.
Spread the holiday cheer across Uganda with a Coca-Cola this festive season. Happy holidays from Coca-Cola.
Forget the times when you used to queue up to access the NSSF services at any branch. You can now access your NSSF account and all services online from anywhere at any time using any device, from your laptop to your katochi, without visiting the branch. Isn't that awesome? Access services like submitting and tracking your benefits claim, viewing your account balance and detailed statement, updating your account information, registering with NSSF, and many other services. Choose from any of these self-service channels, the NSSF Go app, USSD *254#. Call our toll-free line 0800-286-773 or visit www.nssfug.org for more details. So, get online and enjoy a world of convenience.
NSSF, a better life.
Enjoy the superior taste and premium flavor of Uganda Waraji and Bond 7 in the 200 milliliter pack for only 4,000 Uganda shillings at a kaduka near you. Tunyumireva Nangi. Alcohol is not for sale to persons under the age of 18. Please drink responsibly.
933 KFM.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday 7 to 8 p.m.
Welcome back to this edition of the Hot Seat featuring Dismas Nkunda from Civil Society, Onapito Ekomoloit from Nile Breweries, but also represents the President, State House and the First Son on this show. And of course we have from Mengo, Charles Bukenya, who's a second-year student of law at UCU, and from the Democratic Republic of Congo representing Chichikedi and Kabila. Please, it's not from Morocco, this one is a Congolese. Whatever you may
so
say.
Between you and him, who is a
Emmanuel Tabaro. Me, I'm Ugandan. Okay, I'm East African and East and Central African. You know, the name Mwenda is common in Zambia, Tanzania, and Kenya. Then Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. Did you know that?
I thought you were Rwandese.
Please. Okay, I am Rwandese as well. Anyhow, another issue we see, there is a recognition that the last 5 years have been the most productive investment-driven years of the Museveni administration. You can see dams, you can see roads and highways coming on board. You can see the president has opened so many factories across the country. I was seeing Bloomberg newspaper online presenting Uganda has been having one of the fastest growing economies in the world in the last 5 years. I think it's number 3.
No, number 5.
Number 5 in the whole world. So this has been Museveni's best economic performance and infrastructure development period. At the same time, it is also the period when people feel that they have not been beneficiaries of the economy. People think the economy is doing badly. Museveni is mismanaging the country. Why, Dismas, do we see this contradiction between economic performance and public perceptions of the country's performance?
First of all, the public perception. What does that economy mean for them? If a person is in the ghetto, what does having a new factory in Nakaseke doing tiles mean for that person? Almost nothing. Second thing, I think Onapito touched it very well. The anger with Ugandans is about age limit. The majority of people, if you look at, you ask yourself a person, would a person like Magezi, who was a member of parliament, who is a minister, all of a sudden look at his constituents and say, you know what? No. Because you go and consult people tell you in your face. So people have become emboldened. They have decided to say, changing the age limit, silent as it is, I think it is something that really touched quite enough of so many Ugandans. And most people know it was done essentially on appeasement for purposes of Museveni to remain in power. And yet that's the contradiction. He has developed, he has brought things, built infrastructure.
So people are just tired of the guy.
Yes.
Is that, do you see that as the case?
Yes.
Why is it?
I think, first of all, the contradiction of economic growth and discontent is actually best understood by the president himself. And he often underscores it. He says, yes, people have roads, you're just drying cassava on it and what have you. But until when you sort out the issue of personal income, a road is meaningless. I know you're even a big fan of having phones and what, but all these things represent consumerism. I know consumerism feeds on itself. The more you have, the more you need. And you need, the contradiction I think in many African economies is that they are getting into consumerism, which requires disposable income without a credit system. So everything is cash. So how many people have the ability to sustainably have cash to drive that consumerism, which is going with the mobile phones and what have you? That is where the crisis is. No beautiful road, no beautiful school, no beautiful hospital. And look, in many of the social services sector is dysfunctional in terms of the small things like if you have a health center, there isn't enough drugs. So you need cash to go to a private pharmacy. If you have a school, the kids, UPE, they need uniform, they need books, they need slippers, they need food. If you don't have cash, those things don't.
But Onapito, actually, I realize that you're contradicting yourself.
No, I'm not contradicting
You started
myself.
on a very good point. I personally think that the anger we see is a product of economic success. It is not that people are being actually left out. The people most angry with Museveni are people who are on social media. To be on social media gives us a certain profile of the person. That
But they're also the most broke people.
well, let me tell you this. There is a guy in my village who has been left out. He lives in a mud and water house, although it has iron sheets on top and has solar power. He eats from his garden and has very little aspiration and hope in that village. Yes. But the guy who is in an urban area most likely has a particular income, whether as a broker, a hawker, a tax tout, whatever it is, in the informal sector of Kampala or Mbarara. This guy has ability to get a smartphone, which means that's a capital investment of about 50,000 to 100,000 into a capital asset. He can sustain payments of OTT and data on a daily basis to go and express their anger there. But to be on social media also means you can speak English, or at least be able to, at the worst, be able to read and write, meaning that you're a beneficiary of public education, whether it's UPE or USE. In other words, I believe that the more Museveni succeeds economically, even if that income percolates to people, the greater the anger will generate. You know why? Because as people get exposed and get better, as you said, in the consumer economy, they become much more aspirational. They are more exposed now. They become more aspirational. The aspirations are growing faster than the available opportunities, and the mismatch between the two leads to social frustration, and that social frustration is the anger that we see. I was earlier telling you a book by Mishra called The Age of Anger. The book is written by a guy called Pankaj Mishra. It's called The Age of Anger, a history of the present, which I want everybody to read. It's incredible because he's able to capture the industrial transformation of Western Europe and how, as people leave villages and come into cities, become industrial workers, and their lives are not as good, but they are better than when they were peasants in villages. The anger begins increasing, and labor organizations and labor militants. We have seen countries like South Korea, their period of transformation was characterized by a lot of violence. So Museveni, I feel, is facing a problem that even the more economically successful he gets, the greater will be the resistance.
Yeah, but I'm saying, okay, just before Kwezi comes in, you shouldn't really underestimate the lack of disposable income, even amidst what you think is success. I don't know about most of you, but I'm sure it's the case. How many people send you messages asking for support, whom you least expect? Actually, people who are on WhatsApp, but they are busy asking you for. So it's a big issue.
And that the same person pays OTT, has
so he has disposable income not through a job, but through connections to a person like you. Yes.
My point was to disagree with Dismas that ghettos are actually a product of economic growth and not stagnation. Yes,
of course.
Because there was a story.
To go and stay in the ghetto.
Listen, there was a story in the Monitor, I think this week, about gangs, crime gangs in Gulu, northern Uganda. So the reporter says that some of these youth who are involved in crime had been kids who grew up in the camps. At that time, if you left if you ran away from your village and came to Gulu town for insecurity and all that, you would go back to the villages and maybe become a farmer or something like that. But as Gulu has grown, some of those kids are not going back and it has become a serious crime problem. And you can say that for Arua, you can say that for Mbara, you can say that for Jinja and all these other urban places.
Gulu has a peculiar problem that is not comparable to the rest of the towns in Uganda.
You could say the same for Lira and all the other urban areas. Yes. And for me, the issue I have with the NRM is, yes, they realize this group of people who are really a product of NRM's success is growing and they are the biggest source of opposition, but they stick to a base, the one they support with all these Myoga funds, all the interventions that government is involved in, are focused on people in the rural areas. Even on the campaign trail, the president keeps mentioning, we need to empower the rural farmers, the people who are involved in subsistence agriculture. But the biggest bulk of your population, the people that are giving you credit for NRM success, are in the towns. They have the worst infrastructure because you're investing in the rural areas. They have no social services to speak about because in Kampala, everything you have to pay for in public hospitals, private schools, public schools, everything. And they still have to contend with the pressures of the rural areas, the people that Onapito was talking about.
But Kwezi, I thought that the argument would be like this. It's like assuming Museveni invested in Kampala here and people get better off. You think they would be less angry? In fact, I think they would be more angry. The Museveni's failure is not a failure of economic performance. Look, Julius Nyerere presided over Tanzania as he systematically destroyed that country's economy. The GDP between 1961 and 1985 declined by 40% without, except to the war with Uganda, without internal civil disobedience, internal economic, yes. But if you look, so a man who presented over extraordinary economic failure retained public support. Then you look at a person like Park Chung-hee in South Korea who presided over the most rapid industrial transformation of any society known to mankind. He faced a lot of resistance up to his assassination. There are permanent worker protests, student riots, youth riots all over South Korea. Why? Because economic success was also producing anger. What we learn from both Nyerere and Park Chung-hee, which you can learn also from Lee Kuan Yew, is you can transform. If you back your economic performance with serious politics, then you can be able to build an elite coalition in favor of your economic policies. And I think what NRM has failed to do, I come to Bukenya, is to actually actively build a focus on building political support for its economic achievements. For NRM thinks that its economic achievements will speak of themselves and bring about public support. If you look at the most critical people against Museveni, they're younger professionals, they're working in MTN, they're working in Airtel. Look at our clan, the people who sit on our clan, people like Yusuf Serunkuma. Is he a person doing badly? They are driving cars, they are living in nice apartments in Nigeria. They have a good apartment, they say, they drive a car, they have a smartphone, they travel internationally. These are people sick and tired of Museveni, they can't stand the guy. But you cannot say these have failed. In fact, the more they succeed, the greater is the anxiety. And therefore, this is a failure to connect his economic achievements to his politics.
Then you have agreed with Onapito.
Andrew, I think Uganda is not alone in this. The biggest problem for, I think, the last possibly 2 or 3 decades has been the lack of inclusive growth, that the income disparity levels have actually grown high. And I say that it is not for only Uganda. Why? If you look at, for example, say the US, Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is the home of Boeing, the largest employer in the world.
Seattle.
Yes,
Washington State, not Washington, D.C.
Yes, Seattle. So you realize that the rich there are paying about 4% or 2 to 4% of what they earn. The poorest people there are paying about 16% of what they earn. So when you translate it back home here, I just read a report still by Bloomberg, and it says that Uganda's seat output has grown by 33%. But if you look at that growth, it does not translate nationally. For example,
we have to take another break. I want us to discuss whether Uganda's growth is inclusive or is concentrating incomes in the hands of a few.
Yes.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat.
Did you know that the reason why Uganda is constructing roads into Congo is to boost trade between the countries? DRC is one of Uganda's biggest trading partners, and these roads will ease movement of goods and other services between the two countries. Uganda earns about $570 million annually from the DRC.
This message is brought to you by the government of Uganda through Operation Wealth Creation.
The Indian Institute of Health and Allied Sciences invites suitable unqualified Senior 4 and Senior 6 leavers and the general public to apply for their incoming intake in the following courses: Diploma in Nursing, Midwifery, Pharmacy, Clinical Medicine and Medical Laboratory Technology, Certificate in Nursing, Midwifery, Pharmacy and Medical Laboratory Technology. The Institute has ultra-modern laboratories and a well-stocked library to learn and enhance practical skills with furnished classrooms and a well-signed memorandum of understanding with Rubaga Hospital, Butabika Hospital and Kisubi Hospital, among others, for clinical training. We are located at Bomba Road opposite YMCA Wandagea, Kampala, or you can call 0753 6063 290 or 0782 600319.
What makes a beer truly premium? Some say because it's great and that it's different. Others that it's crafted for golden flavor. Listen, a true premium beer isn't about jibber jabber. It's about the ingredients. Rich, malty goodness. Tusker Malt Lager is simply the original 100% malt beer. Don't settle for less. Tusker Malt Lager. Keep it real. Keep it 100. Excessive consumption of alcohol could be harmful to your health. Strictly not for sale to persons under the age of 18. Please drink responsibly.
Forget the times when you used to queue up to access the NSSF services at any branch. You can now access your NSSF account and all services online from anywhere at any time using any device, from your laptop to your Katochi, without visiting the branch. Isn't that awesome? Access services like submitting and tracking your benefits claim, viewing your account balance and detailed statement, updating your account information, registering with NSSF, and many other services. Choose from any of these self-service channels, the NSSF Go app, USSD *254#. Call our toll-free line 0800-286-773 or visit www.nssfug.org for more details. So, get online and enjoy a world of convenience.
NSSF, a better life.
ShopRite is your home of low prices this festive season. We buy more so you spend less, which means there's no better place to shop for festive deals. Like a 1-liter pack of Pick and Peel fruit juice assorted for only 6,900 shillings each, and a 2-kilogram pack of SWT1 long grain basmati rice for just 9,200 shillings. Take home more this festive season. Valid till 30th December only at ShopRite. Lower prices you can trust always.
933 KFM.
And now, it's two-way radio. Pick up your phone now and join the action. KFM's Hot Seat. Coming right at you. 933 KFM.
Welcome back to this last segment of this edition of the Hot Seat, featuring a panel of the most experienced journalists and panelists to discuss the major events of the week. I have Dismas, Nkunda, Onapito, Ekomoloit, Charles Bukenya, and Kwezi, Tabaro. So I want us to briefly finish this issue of income disparity. First of all, the biggest measure we know in the world of growing income inequality is called the Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient, for our listeners, says wealth disparity can be measured between 0 and 1. You can also measure it between 1 and 100. It doesn't change anything. So 1 is 0 is perfect equality. There is an economy of 2 people. It produces 2 mangoes. Each person has 1 mango. Then perfect inequality, which could be 1 or 100, whatever you choose, is an economy where there are 2 mangoes and 2 people. And Mwenda has the 2 mangoes. Dismas has nothing. That is perfect inequality. So most economies are a continuum along between 0 to 100 or between 0 to 1. So if you say 0 to 100, let's use that. Uganda is 39.5.
Meaning?
0.3. So it is 0.395. 0.395. If you look at an economy like that of Botswana, which is the most successful economy in Africa, it is about 65 or 0.65. If you look at the US, it's about 0.60.
So Uganda's inequality is very high. It's very low.
Is among the lowest. In fact, in Africa here, there are few countries like Ethiopia, Benin, I think Malawi, which have better Gini coefficient than Uganda. But if you look at our neighbors, whether it's Rwanda, Tanzania, Kenya, Zimbabwe, South Africa is 0.67. Uganda is not, its income disparity has actually, its Gini coefficient has improved. So the question of income inequality, I don't think is the bigger one. I think the bigger problem of Uganda is a crisis of politics, that NRM actually forgot or abandoned the siyasa.
Is it distribution or just inequality?
Because if you move around Uganda, or if you look at the housing and population census of 2014, you would see the percentage of Ugandans who are now living. Let's talk even about distribution of wealth and people's welfare. The percentage of people in Uganda who live in a permanent building with a house with a permanent floor has now reached about 78% by 2014. If you look at people who live in houses with permanent walls, it's now about 60%. People who live in houses with a permanent roof is around close to 80-something%. So people who have access to iron sheets, who have access to bricks with cement, if you have access to tiles or screed, which is in Uganda we call cement, or wood as your floor. So all these other welfare indicators are improving. Even assets available to families, if you look at the homes with a television, with a better bed, a good mattress, a car, a motorbike, a bicycle, a radio, all these assets in the hands of households have actually increased. The problem is, it is those segments who have access to these things that are even angrier than the peasants removing jiggers from their feet, living in grass-thatched huts.
But not only that, since we are in the midst of election and discussing elections, one toxic element which is predominant in the Ugandan society, there is a linkage between political fortunes or perceived political fortunes and wealth. And this has not been limited to the NRM. Since independence, there has been this perception. Amin took over with the argument that the Langi were being favored. By the time Amin fell, everyone was saying West Nilers had been favored. I think the bigger tragedy for NRM and Yoweri Museveni is that he has been longest in office, and now there's a toxic perception that people from Western Uganda, or precisely Ankole, are being favored. Even if it's not necessarily true, that perception is so strong in the election. And you can hear it in the opposition, especially Nup.
Before Charles, let me come to Kwezi. I want to give you numbers.
People are not even willing to recognize that people like me from Teso may be doing better than some Banyankoli. They just think of
course you do better than most Banyankoli.
But Kwezi, Onapito is raising. Onapito is raising a powerful issue. Here I have from you, boss, the levels of poverty. The least poverty in Uganda, you find it in Kampala. Only 2.6% of people in Kampala live in poverty. Wakiso 2.7%. Now the richest district in Uganda, of course, is Shema. Only 5.9% live in poverty, followed by Bushenyi, 6.9%, Mbarara 7%, Kalangala 7.2%, Churhura 8.2%, Kabarola 8.7%, Mukono 8.9%, Rukunjiri 8.9%. So outside of Kampala and Wakiso, there is only Mukono and Kalangala in the top 10. Of the top 10, if you remove Kampala and Wakiso, really, the West has 6 districts. Central has 2. And you don't see anything from the east, anything from the north.
No, but the numbers...
Is this wealth of these districts in the west? Rukunjiri, Kabarole, Chiruhura, Mbarara, Bushenyi, Shema. Is it because of Museveni's politics, or is it because these people are industrious?
Of course, there are underlying factors for the north and northeast, the insecurity that the regions had to undergo for almost 20 years. So they lost almost 20 years. If Uganda lost 20 years, for them they've lost 40 years of our 58-year history. But the other interesting statistic that you may have forgotten to mention is UBOS also looked at the regions that have had the steepest decline in poverty levels. And when you rank them, it's the north leading.
Yes, that's true.
And followed by the east, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the east has been declining, but the north has...
Yes, is leading. So there are certain factors like insecurity, and if you physically go to the north, some of Uganda's fastest growing towns are in the northern half of the country.
But
some of Uganda's biggest investments are in the northern half of the...
There has been no shortage of throwing of names. I think, for example, Nup leader has been so open by saying that wherever we have gone, regardless of district, all the DPCs look alike. all the other pieces look like they have similar.
No, there's someone. Okay, it was also on social media, and someone disputed it and actually tried to show the DPCs, for example, in Mbarara up to Bushenyi.
But also to dispute that, Bobby Wine and his wife went to Chankwanzi, and the wife was speaking to the people there in Kinyarwanda. So if they hired the DPC from Chankwanzi, wouldn't he have a name Mugisha? Does it mean he comes from Western Uganda?
So Bobby Wine is fighting his own in-laws.
Yeah, of course. But for me, you see, the issue is that where I have some sympathy with Bobby Wine, President Museveni fought a vicious battle against Milton Obote by pointing out that Obote was a tribalist. Yet, if you look at the distribution of Obote's cabinet, whether in the 1980s, which was heavily dominated by people from Bushenyi and Western Uganda, or in the 1960s, it had a perfect distribution across the country. And if you look at Museveni's, it is the most skewed cabinet I know in terms of the dominance of the Western region. So when Bobby Wine makes that argument, he's really echoing.
Would you trust somebody whom you don't trust to give a position that is going? You Andrew Mwenda, if you became a president, how many Batoro would become ministers?
I don't know.
No, you know. Because
when I look at this show, I see a Muteso and a Congo. Only Okay, guys, the final one we must discuss. Going forward, I want to begin with Onapito on this matter. What if this violence continues up to the 14th? What will be the implications on Museveni's ability to govern his own legitimacy post January 14th, 2021?
I think first of all, the most worrying bit is the acceptance of the result. That is, I know people say we have lived with that before, but maybe this is going to be the most disputed win by President Museveni. And is there likely to be a repeat of the kind of violence we witnessed on 18th? I don't know. So I think it requires some pulling back to try and sanitize the likely win of the president. There is need to reduce the chaos around his win, such that there will be dispute, but maybe it should not take so long for that dispute to be there. As for his next term, I think it's going to be totally different ballgame now, because it looks he has reached some new waters which he has to navigate in a way we can't tell now.
If there's so much violence and the president has to win through blood and iron, will it be easier for him then to govern the country? Won't it leave scars that will make it very difficult for him?
Maybe it will make his transition a little bit easier and quicker, because...
Don't you think that if that is discredited, then it's better for him to cling on than to try to
No, it could mean that he will try to broaden the coalition. So we saw in the last election, after the win, he brought in the natural changes, signed some kind of MOU with UPC. And Betkamia. So if we see this disputed election, we could see more overtures, maybe going further, because I think there are some positions, especially the vice presidency, that are up for play.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. I'm told we have to close our show. Our listeners, thank you so much for listening to us and the panel. You have been excellent. Thank you so much. We'll be right back next week on Friday with another interesting discussion. Good evening.
The hottest debate on all relevant topics, live on KFM's Hot Seat tonight. KFM's Hot Seat covers all the relevant topics every weekday, 7 to 8 p.m. Precise, to the point, and accurate. This is KFM News.